Welcome to Six Figure Souls, Doing Good and Making Money, the weekly podcast where I highlight entrepreneurs who have left the grind and decided to design businesses in alignment with who they are. This is a very special season 9 where I'm interviewing my co-authors of the third collaborative book project in the Ultimate Guide series, Leaving Your Legacy. I'm your host, Camille Miller, a known business strategy and life accelerator, founder of the Natural Life Business Partnership and Souls Professional Society. Today, I have in the studio with me, Teresa Lisum. She is a superpower coach. Thank you, Teresa, for being a part of our podcast and for being one of my co-authors.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
You Appreciate are so welcome. So welcome. So I always love to start with a little bit about you, your background of who you were before you became the superpower coach. And we'll talk a little bit about that journey and how you made that decision in life. So tell us a little bit about your background and who you are.
Oh boy. Everybody's life is so full of things. Sometimes it's hard to trace backwards how we actually got to this point. But yeah, I was a teacher and educator for many, 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 many years with young kids. And once I got out of that gig, I had to recreate myself into, reinvent myself into a new identity, a new persona. And so I wasn't sure what that was going to look like. What do I want to be when I grow up? I'm still trying to figure that out. So I was never business oriented until I was introduced to my essential oils that I love, my company that I love. And so that was my first foray into being a solopreneur, a business person who had to think about business and the personal development that is all wrapped around that. So that was my starting point. That led me to other opportunities. It really allowed me to grow and evolve. And that led me to my coaching mentor that introduced me to my own personal strengths. I decided to become trained by him a couple of years ago so that I can help other women feel really good about themselves and see their value. I was always struggling with self-worth issues, not enoughness, never quite saw what I could bring to the table and to the world. So understanding and learning about my strengths really helped solidify that for me. And of course, I want to share that with other women who might have those feelings of self-doubt.
I love that. So how long have you been a superpower coach?
About 2 years, maybe 2.5 years now.
Okay. And what do you feel is something like your unique identifier? What makes you different than other coaches?
Because it's all about the superpowers.
Yeah. I love that.
There are powers, there are strengths that we just have organically innate. We use them all the time freely. We don't realize they're superpowers. We don't realize they're special, but we all have them. We're all unique. We're the only person on the planet with those strengths, those superpowers. And once we understand that, it's just so empowering. And it just kind of leads us to maybe take chances or risks or do things we never would have thought of before. Once we understand that those superpowers are our own and they're so easy for us, and not everybody else thinks like that.
I love that. I always say I'm a unique ability finder. You sound very similar in your abilities. Yeah.
Love that.
So I'm just curious, and for our listeners, do you work specifically with entrepreneurs or women in transition? Is there something you specialize in?
I really enjoy working with women because I really think this is the point in time where women need hands up and as much, permission to give voice to their own strengths, their own superpowers, their own abilities. I think this is my opportunity to help them. So women, right now women in transition who are stepping into that new chapter. I've stepped into a lot of new chapters, transitioned many times on my own, as all women have.
Yep.
I think that's just a natural part of being a woman. You go from maybe a career, then you become a mom, or then maybe a wife in whatever order. Like there's all these different identities and roles that we step into, and they're all a transition. They're all a new chapter that we're stepping into. And sometimes we just need a little help just to get over there and feel better about ourselves as we move through that uncertainty of that transition.
Fantastic. So I want to transition into talking about the book a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And your chapter, what is your chapter name? Hold on. I don't think I have it in front of me.
I do, if you don't.
Yes. Tell me what your chapter name is.
It is Breaking Generational Chains. Not my crap.
I love that. I love that. I love that. So first, let me ask, what made you decide to do this book on leaving your legacy?
Just an opportunity to really, again, help women on their journey. I had so many people help me on my journey to get to this point. I want to be able to pay back and help other women along their journey.
Yeah, I love that, paying it forward. And was this your first time being an author? So let's talk a little bit about this experience. Because in our book, everyone tells their story and then they share a lesson. But I know even for my first time when I was going through, telling my story, and each time it's been a different story because I've grown, right? But getting that out for the first time, or even crafting, what is my story? Because I know what it is, but what part of it do I really want to share?
Yeah.
That once I put it on paper and kind of worked through it, it really defined who I was. So it was a big leap for me. How was the experience for you?
It was definitely a big leap as well.
Yeah.
It's a vulnerability that I was not really comfortable with. Anytime we take a chance in putting ourselves out there, becoming more visible is really a vulnerable state. But yeah, I had a couple different topics, experiences that I could have shared. I had to kind of sift through them and decide which one to really go with.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, just put it down and really think about it and how it did affect my life. I mean, I literally remember that point in time that I wrote about in the chapter. It was just like this, it was like life-changing. And so I had to put words around it and craft it so that it made sense to other people. In my head, it makes sense, but how to communicate that and convey that epiphany to others was the tricky part. But it was a learning process, a growing experience, and I really had to learn what words to use in what order. And of course, it was very helpful being part of a group so that we had some help and some support as to how to even do it.
I get that. Any aha moments as you went through it? Do you think you came out different?
I do. It helped me be really concise and clear and know that it was okay to keep honing it and to reach out for support. I did reach out to a few people that gave me some different ideas, and just keep at it and be patient with myself and knowing it doesn't have to be perfect, but just get the message out there.
Yeah. Can you give us a little insight about what your chapter is generally about?
So the chapter is generally about doing things as, my family did it, doing things that have been passed down from generation to generation, and we don't even realize that we've taken that on and moving forward in our life with it. So it's just around having that awareness of these behaviors, these thoughts that we have brought forward with us that were just unconsciously programmed into us, and knowing that we can change them. If we want to stop that behavior or that thought or that pattern, we do have that choice.
Yeah.
It might seem like we don't, but we actually do. So that was what I was trying to convey, that yes, we do have a choice. Yes, we can change and do something in a way that's serving us better than maybe that old way of doing things was serving us.
Yeah.
Maybe it was served its purpose at that point in time, but now we can let it go and choose something new.
Do you think, because I found it in myself now that I'm raising youngins, that there are things that were passed down that I just took for granted and I just did because that's the way my parents did it.
Yep.
I never realized that that was like imprinted in me and I could change it. And I'll tell you, I'll share a really funny one because I laugh every time I cook, because my grandmother always told me, like, we always had so much food, like our freezers were packed. Every single one of us had always had, we're Italian, always had extra freezers filled with trays of food. And it was always in case the army stopped by. And that's all I knew, right? So, because my grandparents came to this country in the 1900s, right? And my grandmother went through, you know, the World War, like it was, and I literally had a conversation with it. I had to actually break that. And the first thing was getting rid of extra freezers, because what I found myself doing was I was constantly buying and making food and freezing it. And I never got to the bottom of those freezers. Like it was just a complete waste of my time and money. Right. And then when I moved into my last house, I gave away all the extra freezers. So we only live with the small freezer. And I was telling one of my children about this. And she's like, you know, hey, Mom, did you know the Fourth Amendment actually says that the Army can no longer stop by and just, I was like, what?
Oh, that's
like,
funny.
It was like the funniest thing, but it was just one of those things that I just learned because that's the way it was done.
Yes.
Ridiculous enough that it was generation to generation and completely useless information at this point in my life, right? Because we also have food stores and everything else.
Right. And mine was food related as well in the chapter. And it's just an epiphany. I don't know, I'm guessing it was for you as well, to when you have that realization, like, oh, like, why do I even do it this way? So that awareness is really huge when you get that awareness, and then you can choose to do something about it or not. I mean, it's totally up to you.
Yeah.
If your freezers were serving you, then, you know, you keep the freezers. But if they were just, you know, dragging you down basically and taking up all your food because you had to keep them filled with, or taking up all your money because you had to keep them filled with food, then then you consciously make a decision to change.
So interesting. The pattern itself is very interesting. And I believe that as women, especially that I grew up in the 80s, I learned things that aren't even relevant today, right? So
well, what about me?
What a woman was supposed to do. Right. And I'm at this place where I'm so tired of taking care of people. Like it's just
I said,
I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a choice.
And I think that's an important thing to realize. It is a choice. Yes, we've been programmed. Yes, we've been imprinted. I love that word. Yes, we have learned patterns from childhood. They're neither good nor bad.
Right.
They're just a neutral. And it's, you know, once we have that realization, again, that awareness is huge. And then making a conscious, intentional choice to carry them forward or to change them, and how do we want to change them, because we have that ability. So yeah, what we're talking about, I think, is real important for people to realize they have a choice. So
good. I can't wait to read your chapter. So tell me a little bit about the lesson that you shared with everyone.
The lesson is, again, you have a choice.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's as simple as I can get it. And to just know that you can make a better choice and not to have any animosity for where it came from. Like I said, it was just something that came forward. We don't have to judge it. We can analyze it. Like you said, you had to think about where that started from. So sometimes it's kind of fun to trace it backwards and see, like, where did this start? Like, who, how did that even get into the family traditions or behaviors? So if you want to put the energy into it, fine. If not, that's
Doesn't
fine.
matter. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's what
just
matters
learned.
is that you and me, we've decided to break it and try something new. I don't know how it was for you when you were married, you had your kids. Like, we had to create new, like, holiday traditions. Do you remember that? Did you do that? And it was weird. It's like, oh, like, I can do something different now. And we kind of like started from scratch, in our own way within our family. And that was interesting. Instead of bringing forward the things from how I grew up, we consciously were choosing to decide on, well, what can we do for our own new family that they will have those traditions, if they so choose, to move them forward.
Yeah. I still struggle with that, but the holidays, because my parents are still with us and they still live close by, that we've kept them, but it's very clear that once they pass, there's no shot in hell. And I'll even share a dream that I have shared with my children. I was like, because I hate Thanksgiving. I hate turkey. I hate everything about Thanksgiving, right? But I always have to show up at Thanksgiving dinner and just sit there because I don't eat anyway, right? So I kept telling them, the day that we don't do Thanksgiving, it's going to become our new, now my kids are in their 20s, our new family tradition, that we will fly to an island for Thanksgiving every year. That's going to be our thing. We will meet somewhere else in the world. I'm not doing it here.
Oh, that is, I love that
doesn't
tradition.
Celebrate Thanksgiving.
I'm going to have to think about that for myself.
Yeah, that is my goal. We are still showing up for Thanksgiving dinner though right now, but
as long as your partner and everybody else is on board for that. I know my partner, he's very traditional and he likes to do it the way it's always been done. Whereas I'm like, yeah, no, I could give it up if I needed to, if I wanted to.
Yeah, there's lots of things starting to change, but it's also because my kids are older now and I'm divorced. So I have that leeway.
Yeah, you have the opportunity.
I'm not doing, like, I used to always do Christmas dinner because we're Italian. We celebrate Christmas Eve. Christmas isn't actually a holiday really for us. So I don't do it. I don't even see my family now because my kids go to see their dad and I'm like, wait a minute. I literally don't have to do a thing on Christmas. So now my sister and I like go for a hike in the mountains because nobody's there. It's kind of nice.
Oh, that's
like little
fabulous.
things like that. That's our thing. Like Easter morning, we did the same. We went for a hike.
That's cool. I love that. And there's no guilt involved.
No, my kids are grown. They're not opening stockings anymore. They're not hunting for Easter baskets. They're usually still asleep if they're visiting, right? So it's kind of like this whole different level. I'm like, I'm gonna hike.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
And then the grandkids come in and then you switch it up again.
Yeah, but I'm visiting. Right?
Well, that is true. That is true.
I think it's a whole different
energy. That is so true. It's so fun because you do have that ability to give them back and leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to be very careful about setting traditions that I have to live up to. I didn't know I was setting a tradition. This is funny, like how sometimes we just do things because, we've been taught. And I didn't know that I set a tradition with my kids that when I set this, they were little, that I set up the Christmas tree. I always played holiday music. We set it up together more because I didn't want to do it, right? We set it up together. I played holiday music and I always baked cookies while they were setting up. So they smelled cookies and they were able to like eat snacks for helping me. And I don't know what year it was. I was like, I was like working full time at that point. I was like, can someone just like help? Can we all just like jump in for an hour and help me? And they're like, well, where are the cookies? And I'm like, what are you talking? Like, I didn't even know I did it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we don't put up trees unless you're baking cookies. And I'm like,
oh man,
I had no idea I started this tradition.
Wow. So there's that unconscious
Yeah.
thing kicking in that you didn't even realize. Wow,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. I got to go check with my kids now and see what I did that I didn't realize I was putting in place.
That's exactly it. And there was another one, the same thing, decorating a tree. I ran out and I only had one kid home. I mean, in college age, we're talking. We're not talking little kid, right? And I was like, hey, can you hang the icicles on the tree? Because I was doing everything trying to get ready because they were all coming home now. Like they didn't live with me anymore.
Yep.
I was like, can you throw the icicles on the tree while I run out to get something? I don't know what it was. And I came back and she's bawling, crying. And I'm like, what happened? And she's like, well, we've never not decorated the tree together. She's like, and all my siblings aren't here. And I was like, oh my God. So just like little, obviously mine are all around Christmas, but just crazy stuff that you
I know it's funny how we hold on to that stuff without even realizing.
Yeah. And I've probably created other ones that I had no idea that I created.
Yeah.
And then just saying, hey, we can break this. We can do something different now. You're older. We did have to finally break all the stockings and yeah, we're doing that. And last year, I was like, Santa ain't coming anymore. I'm like, you guys are all in your 20s. There is no big Christmas anymore. Pick a gift. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Awesome. But I love what you do. And I love that you even help people recognize that they're doing it. I think that's really, really important for so many women, many of us transitioning into different chapters. And I really do believe as a woman that every decade is like a new chapter.
Ooh,
at least I've felt that way.
Love
right?
that.
Who I was in my 30s is not who I was in my 40s, who's not what I was in my 50s. And I actually look forward always to the next chapter.
Oh, that's
Things
great.
that are in the next chapter.
That is a delightful way of looking at an age. I know I've heard people say, like, once they hit that decade mark, oh, I'm 40, like they think that's the end of the world. Like, you're not even close, honey. Like, you got, so that's beautiful that you look forward to it to see what that next chapter brings. I love that.
We're
That's
different people in each chapter. I mean, totally. I was just telling someone, I was like, we lose the body because we gain it in our mind. We lose our body because we're not so smart, right? So we needed the really good looking body when we're young. But as we grow older, we have so much wisdom and inner beauty that it's okay to age out of it.
Yeah. I love that.
It's a different way of looking at life.
Definitely. And I love that perspective. That could be helpful to so many women.
Yeah. I always look at the decade above me, because not to say that there aren't moments where I'm like a little sad or like, woof, I'm getting older. Like, and it's just glaringly obvious to me. And I'm like, okay, but look at that, like really fit or really beautiful woman who's got 10, 15 years on me. Why don't I make that my goal? So it helps me each time.
Yeah, I know. And I like to think me, we're leading by example. We're breaking that stereotype, what view of a particular age. Like, no, doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. Beautiful.
We choose for ourselves.
Teresa, I love the work you are doing in the world.
Well, thank you so much. I love what you're doing as well.
Thank you. If people would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
The best way, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. So just look up my name on LinkedIn and you'll be able to connect with me there. Facebook, YouTube, I have a YouTube channel. You can certainly look for me there. So just Teresa Lisum, that's a long I. So Teresa Lisum .us is my little website page. But yeah, my name is me. So
awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today and being a co-author in my book.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. It was really a growth experience, that's for sure. And a learning experience. Yes. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you everyone for joining me today. If you loved this interview, please share it with your friends and pick up the book, which is coming out in September of 2024. You can also join others by checking out the Soul Professional Society at soulprofessional.com. A reminder that a soul professional lives in a higher vibration, has an alternative approach to business, and is here to help repair the world. So if you're one of those people, please check us out. Thank you again, Teresa.
Love that. Thank you.